So that is, I believe, the original Busch scheme for the first races. Yeah, so personally, this particular paint scheme is important just to the progression of Anheuser-Busch in NASCAR racing, because at this particular point, Budweiser had decided that they were going to do something different, and AB had decided that they were going to transition into the Busch brand and rebrand it in NASCAR. So from that particular point on, the racing program became the primary focus of what is the Busch, the most prestigious sponsor in our sport, I guess you could say, and in the way that they activate and market, because the racing program became the program in the marketing program, and that was the first paint scheme. So that was a big moment in transition at Anheuser-Busch, and that paint scheme means a lot because I feel like we were a big part of that. Yeah, so Jimmy John's, it was a very big moment for us, and I think for the Jimmy John's brand in general, we were a big part of making the brand recognized and known. That was really their reason for sponsorship. So anytime I see a brand come to Cup Series racing and know that, I always try to know that whatever their goals are, we recognize and understand. So for Jimmy John's, it was all about brand exposure. And you look at the Jimmy John's brand today, and obviously Jimmy and I are good friends and kind of went through the brand growing together. But this is one of the great first schemes that we had at Stewart-Haas Racing with Jimmy John's on the car. I think the favorite win in this scheme is the first win for Stewart-Haas Racing. So that marks the beginning of the wins that we have here at Stewart-Haas. So pretty big moment to take all the pressure off of everybody to get that first win out of the way. The pink paint scheme for Rheem is significant because it's in recognition of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Sue Carley was a great part of the program really from the beginning of when we had the Rheem program at KHI, and she passed a couple years ago, and to see the pink car on the racetrack and recognize what that program really means to everybody at Rheem and all of us who worked with Sue is pretty important. So that one has some pretty special meaning as well. To have Rheem back in the mix with our program kind of brings everything full circle. Rheem was one of the original partners at KHI, and really we came in the sport with Rheem, and the things that the programs and things that they had created were really, we were a part of that from the very beginning. So to kind of come full circle and be a part of my last year and everything that we're doing really brings a lot of pride, just because a lot of these partners have been with me for over a decade. The Gravedigger scheme is probably the biggest hit that we've had probably since the pink car. But I think when you look at the Gravedigger brand, for me, I grew up watching monster trucks, so it was Bigfoot, Gravedigger, and to have the kids come and surprise me with the Gravedigger car and be able to have the monster truck there and see the merchandise program and have the Anderson family come to the racetrack at Nashville. But the Gravedigger diecast is, over the past couple of years, has definitely been the one that I've seen the most of. So it doesn't get much cooler than Gravedigger. I believe this is the first Hunt Brothers scheme at Stewart-Haas Racing, and I take a lot of pride in a lot of the sponsors that have been with us for a long time, and I know how much pride that Hunt Brothers Pizza puts into being a part of the car, and this was a big step for them to come on at the All-Star race. But it's funny how you remember certain races that you lose, and sometimes you forget the ones that you win. But this particular car dominated the All-Star race, and we didn't win. So that's why I remember this car. But other than that fact, it was really the maiden voyage for Hunt Brothers Pizza on the Cup Series car at Stewart-Haas Racing, so I always take pride in that. The black and white car, and I talk a lot about our sport has changed so much because of the fact that you kind of have your first half of your career. For me, I have the first half of my career and the second half of my career, and it's really how there are a lot of fans that don't watch the sport or are new to the sport. And when you look at the black and white car, Mobil 1 put this car on the racetrack at Darlington as part of the throwback. But the story behind the black and white car on the 29 car was when we switched everything with Earnhardt the week of Rockingham. They didn't want the car to be black. They didn't want the 3 on the car. So they switched the silver on Earnhardt's car to black, and they switched the black to white. But everything underneath we just painted over the top of it because that's really all we had time to do. And we actually painted cars in those particular days. But this particular car was a throwback to what would have been my first 2 Cup races, which would have been Rockingham and Las Vegas. So pretty simple scheme, but that one was representing the first 2 races of my Cup Series career. So this particular car was significant in the fact that we won our first race at Pocono. We'd been so close so many times, but Busch had a special paint scheme on the car, and that was, I believe, the first year of the Pocono doubleheader. And one of the significant things about this, the people weren't allowed back at the racetrack yet, and these particular group of Anheuser-Busch folks that came to the racetrack had been there for 20 years, and I don't think they'd ever seen their car win a race. And the first weekend that they weren't at the racetrack, we win. So they were pretty bummed and excited all at the same time because they didn't get to go to Victory Lane. But that was a big moment for us because it had always been a racetrack that the first half of my career we struggled at, and we put a lot of emphasis on making sure that we ran good at Pocono and have pretty much every time we've been there. So getting that first win was pretty cool. And it was a cool paint scheme. The Budweiser car was really the first primary that we had at Stewart-Haas Racing, and I think for all of us is significant in the fact that we won the championship and were able to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish the first year with winning the championship, but to win with the iconic Budweiser brand on the car and be able to win the last race and have what I would consider a pretty good first year and have that end with a championship was pretty significant. But it's hard to beat a standard Budweiser red and white paint scheme, and that was the original Budweiser scheme that we ran at Stewart-Haas Racing. So lots of good moments in that car and a championship. The To the Moon car, I still really have no idea what this means, but the Busch folks thought it was great, and I'm all on board with cool cars and cool promotions. I'm not sure how it went, but I heard it went pretty good. But it's got rocket ships and some sort of misspelled word on the back that means something about crypto, I think. Is that correct? I'm not a crypto guy. The Busch Light scheme, as it came along, and we went through the transition from Budweiser to Busch. We went from Busch to Busch Light as the marketing program really started to figure out and get their feet on the ground of everything that was happening with the Busch brand. They realized how popular Busch Light was, and we migrated from the Busch brand to the Busch Light brand, and this was kind of the first standard Busch Light scheme that we went to, and I know we won some races in it, but to me, for whatever reason, I remember the marketing schemes and ideas and plans behind most of the cars more than I do where they won or what they won. You're supposed to win in them all, but this one was significant in the fact that we were transitioning from Busch to Busch Light. This one's one of my favorites because of the fact in 2014 we had our backs against the walls so many times and were able to rebound and win races and put ourselves in position to stay alive. And for whatever reason, this particular Budweiser car, it had a little wooden crate, and we were commemorating some of the ways that they used to deliver beer and how you got beer. And this one This one had some wood grain that went along with the scheme, but it came at probably the most significant moment in the 2014 championship run, with winning the race when we had to win at Phoenix and being able to put ourselves in position. One of the cool things that I remember about this race is after I won the race, our UFC fighter Donald Cerrone was standing on the front straightaway when I came back around, doing the biggest air guitar I've ever seen. So the Busch wood grain car is one of my favorite schemes, just for a number of reasons. It looks cool, significant moment, and we won. This particular car, I did not like in the beginning. Not necessarily for the color. I don't mind wearing pink or driving a pink car, but I had no idea what 98% of the things on the car represented as far as the sayings. And once they sat down for the second time and kind of explained the idea behind the car, I was good with it. But it did not look like this when they explained it to me, and they showed it to me for the first time at a photo shoot. So this is how it turned out, and for me, going to the car, you can always tell if you're in trouble or you've had a good week or something fun's going on. This was in the something fun is going on category at the All-Star race, because when I got to my car, everybody was waiting for me to walk out of the hauler to see my white and pink suit along with my pink car and me climb into this car. So I knew that at that particular point we had a pretty good marketing scheme on our hand, and we were having fun with it. So I'm not sure who got in trouble for the Busch AF on the hood, but we got away with it somehow.